John, now we have with us Peter Schweizer. He is head of the Government Accountability Institute, also knows China very, very well. Charlie mentioned China and everything. Peter, what do you think is going on? We're hearing sort of mixed messages on whether they're talking to China on the tariffs and also, sort of the Chinese mindset too. You've done so much investigation on this. Where do you think this is going with U.S. and China? And obviously we've seen in recent days a whole bunch of different companies that are saying, okay, we're going to try to move our facilities to America. That's a great sign. But there's so much interconnectivity with us and China for trade, especially in products that we use every day.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the conversation you just had with Charlie really explains well the situation in the United States. And China's watching that, right? They are watching the debate. They are watching the concern and the anxiety. They're going to use that to their advantage in the negotiations. And what they don't want, Xi needs this internally, they don't want to be seen to bow down to Donald Trump. And I think what when you look at what Trump's doing, a lot of people see chaos. And there have been some reversals of positions, but overall, Trump's approach pretty much, I think across the board is we are going to confront and we are going to operate in a way that constrains China. Trade policy is part of that. Look at the Panama Canal. The reason they talk about wanting to exert more control of the Panama Canal is they want to kick Chinese influence out of there. If you look at the Russia-Ukraine situation, whatever one thinks about the deal, whether we should have it or not, I think one of the reasons they're interested in a deal there is that they want to further isolate China. And Russia, having been isolated because of their aggression in Ukraine, has been pushed close to China. Trump wants to move Russia away from China. So there's a lot of things that are going on in addition to trade policy. And I think it's one of the reasons that China is probably going to dig in. And I do not anticipate we're going to get any remarkable trade deal in the next 30 days. We may get something that's kind of a partial settlement, but I don't think we're going to get any breakthrough because they are trying to, keep time on their side, so to speak.
Judge Weinberg.
Good to talk to you again, Peter. I'll tell you what concerns me. If you don't show strength to the Chinese, they get emboldened. Taiwan is under threat. They're making moves against Taiwan on the out islands there. If Trump doesn't handle the Ukraine-Russia situation as well as the Iran nuclear situation with real strength and not wobbly like the Biden administration does, that will only embolden China, which does have a long-term plan to supplant us. And they have hegemonic ambitions across the world. What are your thoughts?
No, I think you said it very, very well, Judge. And that's the challenge. Look, I'm with you guys. I think the tariffs are a challenge for the economy. But I think we also have to keep in mind the situation in China is far worse economically than it is in the United States. China has a very serious problem with property valuations. I think I read somewhere that sort of 2/3 of the personal wealth of people in China is tied up with property. Property values have been falling in a major way. They're talking about trying to come up with a stimulus. There's not a lot of optimism about where the Chinese economy is going. So I'm certainly not advocating a race, to the cliff, so to speak. But I agree with you. You absolutely have to show strength. And look, I give Trump a lot of credit on the tariffs for not only wanting to deal with, China's aggressive economic behavior, but it's also one of the few ways you can actually get China's attention when it comes to fentanyl. We've talked about this before. It is really China that is driving the fentanyl poisoning in the United States more than the Mexican drug cartels. And I think Trump's strategy with Mexico and Canada and China of saying we're going to put an extra tariff on you specifically until you deal with the fentanyl issue, which they can, I think is an example of how you need to be tough and they need to pay a price when they engage in behavior that, in this particular case, is chemical warfare against the United States. So the people that are dying of fentanyl poisoning don't know they're taking fentanyl. This is being done by the Chinese at every link in the chain.
Peter, tell everybody again. You told me this, I remember, a while ago, and it stuck with me, that there's an area in particular, like it's a whole set-up shop with Chinese labs there that are producing fentanyl in Mexico.
Yeah. The DEA in the United States says definitively that there are 2,000 Chinese nationals in northern Mexico working for the Sinaloa drug cartel, and they're basically chemists. They take the precursor chemicals that, of course, arrive from China, and they turn it into the deadly cocktail, which is what people are dying from, and they produce pills. You know, the people that usually die of fentanyl overdoses think they're taking a Vicodin or an Adderall. It's a kid studying for a college exam, takes an Adderall, dies.
And they're killing 100,000 Americans a year.
Exactly. It's the leading
and nobody's doing anything about it.
Right. So why is that factory being able to, why is someone not taking out that factory? Let me just ask a question.
A very good question, because here's the other thing. With those 2,000 chemists, they use pill presses to make the pills that look like Vicodin and Adderall that are poisoning people. Those pill presses come from China. And again, according to our DEA, those pill presses are sold to the Sinaloa cartel at cost. In other words, the Chinese companies are not making a profit selling to the drug cartels. They are selling industrial-sized pill presses.
They're killing Americans.
So, Charlie, Ed Cox here, how do you do a trade deal with someone like that, who is really, this first time we really dealt with someone who's a real enemy of the United States? How do you deal with it?
Yeah,
how do you do a
challenge.
trade deal?
Yeah, and I think there are two things. There are the trade barriers that are detrimental to our economy, and I think the way that Trump has structured this is very good. There is a tariff on China and on Mexico and Canada specific to fentanyl. Until you show progress in this area, that 20% tariff is staying in place. In addition to that, there are tariffs in place for their trade practices and the fact that they close their market to U.S. businesses in so many ways. So I think the way he structured it is good. I mean, in other words, we can still talk and negotiate with you on the trade practices, but the fentanyl tariff is not going away until you deal with this. And look, one of the simple things that the Chinese government could do overnight is the drug cartels now, they used to launder their money through Latin American banks. DEA says 90% of the Mexican drug cartel drug money is now laundered through Chinese state-owned banks. That could be stopped tomorrow.
But
wow.
Peter, the bottom line is you're not going to get a quick trade deal with China.
I don't think you are. And look, I agree we've got to have these conversations, but the more we have conversations about how it's damaging our economy, the more the Chinese will believe the time is on their side. And that's to the judge's point. You've got to maintain a strong position with them when you're negotiating.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Peter, wow.
Peter Schweizer, thank you so much for coming on, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Peter, for that information. Very powerful.
And let's take...